This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on inclusion of retail and wholesale traders under MSME. The participants are Sharad Kohli, Economic Analyst, and Sonu Sood, AIR Correspondent.
The government yesterday announced fresh guidelines to bring retail and wholesale trade back under the ambit of micro, small and medium enterprises. Announcing this yesterday, MSME Minister Nitin Gadkari said the government is committed to the strengthening of MSMEs and making them engines of economic growth. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has hailed inclusion of retail and wholesale trade in MSMEs as a landmark step and said the government is committed to empower the traders. Sharadji, can you tell us about the importance of this decision and how will it benefit and empower the 2.5 crore retail and wholesale traders of our country?
Let's look at the backdrop under which this is being done. If you look at some of the macro numbers, which are so important for MSME sector, well, out of overall business community in India, well, 99% constitutes MSMEs, which is micro, small, medium. And for the sake of our listeners, just to refresh everybody with their memory, on what is the definition. Micro is when your investment is 1 crore and your turnover is not more than 5 crores. Small is when your investment is not more than 10 crore and your turnover is not more than 50 crore. And medium is when your investment is not more than 50 crore and turnover is not more than 250 crores. So with 99% of the businesses in India falling in this category, my estimate says, Sonu, that the total number of MSMEs in India, I mean, if you go on Wikipedia or Google it, you will find 6.3 crore. But my estimate is that there are around 6.6 crore MSME units in India registered and unregistered. And surprisingly, only 25 lakh have been within the ambit of MSME ministry, or they are supposedly registered with that Udyam registration. So I think in 2006, when MSME Development Act was brought to fore, these retailers and wholesalers were included. They were part of the MSME. And then in 2017, when GST came, because things were linked to GST, your registration was linked to GST, so they were dropped out of that. So ever since then, they were continuously requesting the government, there were appeals made, there were petitions made, there were letters given by various retail organizations, Retailers Association of India, the Confederation of All India Traders, some of the biggest retail associations, they said that we should be included. And why they were included, the pretext given by the government was that this is neither manufacturing nor services, because what you do is, you buy wholesale from a factory or a stockist, or you retail. You've got a shop and you retail the product. So they say it's just picking up the goods and passing on to somebody. So it's not a service. I'm glad it's a landmark move and a very welcome step, in fact. And I think it will provide a lot of impetus to suffering retail and wholesale industry because of the pandemic. I think it has been done in the backdrop of the pandemic because we have been observing lockdowns since 2020, one after the other, partial lockdowns, weekend lockdowns, full lockdown, national lockdowns, regional lockdowns, state lockdowns. So I think the shops and the markets are the first businesses to be affected. They are like the frontline affected business community. So they were suffering because what happens is when a shop closes down, your rentals go, your fixed economic costs, which include wages and some of the electricity fixed costs, they keep going. So they were facing difficulties in running the business per se. And I think one thing which I would like to make very clear, Sonu, is that, in fact, as they say, devil lies in the fine print. So if you read the fine print of the circular which has been released, that very categorically says that the benefit extended to these retail and wholesale MSMEs is only for priority sector lending, which means that some of the other benefits which usual MSME businesses avail, which includes the manufacturing and services, they will not be so far provided to the wholesale retail. I think so. This one clarification our listeners must very carefully listen to, that it is only and only extended for priority sector lending. Whereas when it comes to MSMEs in general, when we talk of manufacturing and services, they get benefit of patent registration, they get benefit of marketing their products, they get so many other benefits. But I personally feel, let's look at the glass half full. At least the gates of MSME have now been reopened, I would say, for wholesalers and retailers. And I think in the times to come, I'm sure the government, if it has come this far, it will definitely take the next step also of bringing them at par with the other units, because it's been a constant complaint of wholesalers, retailers, that we are also businessmen, we are also running a micro, small, medium enterprises. So we should also be given the benefits which are extended. There is a dedicated ministry we all know now for MSME, and it's called MSME Ministry. And I think the ministry has been formed with an idea to focus and let this grow. And just to provide you some of the macro numbers, 29% of our country's GDP relies on MSMEs. 11 crore is the number of people who are employed by these MSMEs. So it's a massive number. So therefore, I think a very welcome step, a landmark step, a small beginning, because it is only priority sector lending which is right now being opened for these wholesalers, retailers. But I think at least the gates are now open. So you can walk in. Maybe the government, the next step would be to extend all the benefits that come to MSMEs.
Can you tell us something about priority sector lending? Does this mean that the various credit guarantee schemes which are there under Atmanirbhar Bharat stimulus, they will be able to avail them and they will be able to restore their businesses, which you said are hit by COVID-19, by obtaining necessary finances from banks which had earlier denied the same?
Very pertinent question, I would say, because if it is only focused at priority sector lending, then yes, our listeners need to know what exactly priority sector lending is. What is the concept? Every commercial bank in India has to reserve 40% for priority sector lending. Now, what does priority sector? It includes agriculture, it includes housing, it includes MSMEs, and probably a couple of them more if I start listing them. Probably it includes export credit also. It includes education sector also. Now, 7.5% of this total 40% allocation which the bankers do. There is a formula by which bank calculates the adjusted net bank credit, as they call it, A and BC. So on that basis, 40% is allocated for priority sector lending, and out of that, 7.5% Sonu is reserved for MSME. So I think these wholesalers and retailers will now be able to avail that 7.5% allocation of the 40% of this thing for extending working capital credits. Yes, as far as the Atmanirbhar Abhiyan ECGLS, we must understand that that is only mostly for the MSMEs who are already availing a credit from the bank. If you remember, it was 3 lakh crore, then another 1.5 lakh has been very recently allocated. Out of that, 2,70,000 crores has already been sanctioned and disbursed. And maybe wholesaler retailers may not exactly fall under emergency credit guarantee line, but under priority sector lending, they can approach a bank for funding their working capital, taking a term loan, because 7.5%, which is reserved for MSMEs, out of that 40%, will now be available to wholesalers and retailers also. Another very important point, Sonu, which comes, if you compare MSMEs, non-retail and wholesale, versus MSMEs in wholesale retail, you will find that if we start mapping them in the country, you go to tier 1 city, tier 2 city, tier 3 city, then you walk on to the suburban areas, go to the villages, you will find that these MSMEs in wholesale retail sectors are literally spread throughout the country. Whereas when it comes to manufacturing and services, you will find a cluster-based development. Like there is a certain area which is known for, let's say, leather and shoe. There is a certain area which is known for brass. There is a certain area which is known for steel. Whereas MSME in wholesale retail, you walk into any village, there will be a small market there, because after all, the definition of MSME says that your total investment should be not more than 1 crore and your total turnover should not be more than 5 crores, which means practically all the retail traders across the country, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from Kutch to right down to Assam and Northeast, practically entire lot of wholesaler retailers are covered. If you see the geographical coverage, 2.5 crores, I feel the number can be even more, because the total number of organized and unorganized MSMEs in this country is 6.6 crores, and I feel a major chunk of this. And another interesting revelation is that out of the 99% business community falling in MSME, within MSME, the micros, when I say micro, I mean people whose investment is up to 1 crore and the turnover is up to 5 crore. They constitute, Sonu, you will be startled by the number, 99.3%, which means such is the scale of the micro businesses in our country. I think the people who will be most benefited would be the micro enterprises. They are the smallest of businessmen. And you find 1 or 2 people employed when there is a small shop, he's got 1 helper, he's got 1 person for delivery, there is a small shop on which a family or 2 runs. So I think the geographical spread and mapping of these MSMEs is a very interesting aspect, and that is where the benefit is going to be far-reaching.
Sharatji, retail and wholesale trade, being services or not, as you mentioned, has been a moot point. In fact, in many countries, they are classified as services. Would you say that for a common citizen like you and me, they are probably one of the most important service providers that enable ease in our everyday lives? This move has a structural impact for the sector, helping it get formalized. It will be for the benefit of the economy at large.
Absolutely, Sonu. You hit the nail on the head, because this was the bone of contention. I mean, when in 2017, this sector was removed from the definition of MSMEs. If you see the applications which were filed with the MSME ministry, the most of the petitions which were made, various associations, when they went and they approached, this was the very first thing they said. I mean, when you were speaking, it was sounding as if somebody talking to the MSME minister and telling that we are the biggest service providers. Because what is the service here? The service is, let's say, retailer. I pick up the goods. I'm the collector. I'm collecting goods from various wholesalers. And on the basis of the locality where I feel that these goods are most needed on a retail basis, I'm putting them together. I'm hiring a shop. I'm paying rent. I'm hiring people. I'm paying electricity bill. And I'm waiting for those customers to come. Otherwise, if these retailers are not there, imagine if there are no retailers and you have to go and buy your daily grocery, where would you go and buy from? You're not going to knock the doors of those factories or those large wholesalers that, okay, I want 1 piece of bread and I want 2 liters of milk, or I want probably half a kilo of dal. I think it is high time that the government realize, and I'm glad they have realized that these are service providers, but I still feel more than the definition, the economic situation which has propelled this move from the government, because the corona crisis, the shopkeepers, the wholesalers were the most hurt. Because when you order a lockdown, what closes first? The first thing you think in a lockdown is the market closing down. So when a market closes down, imagine all these MSMEs, or most of them, are on rented premises. And there were so many disputes in the court where the shopkeeper was telling the landlord, sir, please don't charge me because my shop was closed. I was not making any sale. And same goes for the helper, the employees. They had to sustain employees because otherwise they would have run away to their villages, which happened in cases. What about the electricity bill? If it's a cell phone premises, you still bear fixed establishment charge. So I think these were the people who were bearing the brunt of the pandemic because of the lockdown. So I think the move has been propelled. If you list out 2 main reasons, first reason would be that it was the lockdown and the financial difficulties faced by this sector. Second reason is reinvention of the definition of services, or I would call it rationalization of the definition of services, that yes, these are service providers. Whatever you do to earn money is a service to yourself and a service to the society. Now, if you read the circular in fine print, you would find that the repair of cars and automobiles is included. However, wholesale of automobiles has still been excluded, because then government feels company parks the car in your retail showroom, all you have to do is to deliver to the customer. So that one area has still been kept out of this circular. However, repair of car and repair of automobiles has been brought within the ambit of MSMEs. This was also earlier not part of MSME definition. So which means, what is the next scenario now? Next scenario is let all wholesalers and retailers go to the online registration facility launched by the government a few years ago. Go there, register yourself. It's an automatic process. You don't have to pay anything. Just go there, log in, register yourself, get your registration number, print the certificate, hang it in your shop. It will give more credibility to you that you are a registered MSME dealer. And I think another very important target which government, or objective which the government has set for itself, is formalization of this sector. Because what has happened at the mapping of these enterprises is across the country. It is very difficult now for me and you, or any government official for that matter. It is very difficult to go and count how many shops exist in a village, how many shops exist wherever, you have these home shops, you have these shops opened in these khokhas, you have these shops opened in these small places. Mapping of this particular sector was very difficult. I think this will also be initiation of formalization of this sector, where government will be able to collect the data as people get registered. So by way of spotlight today, Sonu, I would also take the opportunity of whosoever is listening to our show, the listeners, that in case you are a wholesaler or retailer, please do not delay. Even if you do not want any money as a loan, please go and register yourself, because you never know. The next step, as I said, may be opening of other benefits the other MSMEs enjoy. And there are so many of them. As I said, you get help in patent registration, you get help in marketing your product, you even get help in recovering your dues. There are so many benefits. So who knows the next step the government will take. I think the first step has been taken to be able to avail the next step and to be able to help government in formalizing the policies for this sector. Go and register yourself, because more the data government has, I think more easy it would be for the government to make policies for this particular sector.
Sharadji, thank you so much for this comprehensive discussion and analysis on this landmark step that the government has taken of including retail and wholesale trade under MSME. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion, Inclusion of Retail and Wholesale Traders under MSME. The participants were Sharad Kohli, Economic Analyst, and Sonu Sood, AIR Correspondent. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsttalks@gmail.com.